Kia ora katoa. Ko Tania tako ingoa no te whanganui a tara ahau. I'm Tania. I'm the Chief Executive of Physical Education New Zealand, beaming in from a very wet Wellington. The three associations in the health and physical education curriculum area, that's Physical Education New Zealand, the New Zealand Health Education Association, and Education Outdoors New Zealand, as well have joined with Sport New Zealand, and in particular the Healthy Active Learning Initiative, to put on this series of weekly webinars on presentations and topics that are relevant and hopefully of interest to teachers and school leaders in primary and intermediate schools. I'm aware that many of you will have raced in from your classrooms to be here today, so I'd like to start with a karakia to settle us into this afternoon. Unuhia te pōwhiri marama, toko kia te au whatu tangata, tātai ki runga, tātai ki raro, tātai ahorau, homie huie, taeki e. We're so pleased to have Karen Daldoff join us today to talk about Water Skills for Life program and the services that Water Safety New Zealand provides for teachers. Karen is the New Zealand National Education and Water Safety Manager for Swimming New Zealand, and she's joining us from Havelock North today, where apparently it's sunny. Welcome, Karen. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Tanya, and hello to everybody who's joining us from all over the country and the world. Super excited and privileged to be with you this afternoon, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to spend the next 45 minutes with us. I'll try and make it as interesting and as insightful as I can. There will be a chance at the end to ask questions. Tanya will manage the chat, so if you've got any questions, you're welcome to, unless you want to ask something during the session, pop them up at the end and we can answer those. So Tanya's already told you, I'm Karen Daldoff, the National Education and Water Safety Manager for Swimming New Zealand. I'm lucky enough to live in Hawke's Bay. I've been around swimming, from swim teaching, my own children, managed swim schools, and then progressed into the education world with Swimming New Zealand. So done that for almost 20 years now. Love it, love the variety of it and being able to meet and assist teachers and swim teachers in keeping our young people and New Zealanders safe in and around the water. So today is about Water Skills for Life. A little bit about Water Skills for Life is it was launched in 2016. It came about by Swimming New Zealand and Water Safety New Zealand, looking at the national drowning statistics and also looking at the amount of funding available to help reduce those drowning statistics. Had a look at how many people there were out there, as in swim teachers, who could help and assist. And the reality is there are not enough swim teachers in the country to teach every person in the country to learn to swim, but there also isn't enough facilities. So there are a lot of schools with really, really good pools out there, and there are a lot of lovely teachers who have your students for a number of days in the school pool each year. So we needed to look at how we could utilize those school pools and also your expertise with students to basically improve their knowledge of water safety and swimming. So only 20% of Kiwi kids go to swimming lessons. So a large number of students, what they get at school is really, really important because it's all they're ever going to get. So we want to help you make it as easy as possible, because we know if it's easier for you, it's going to be more enjoyable, not only for you, but also for the students. So basically, Water Skills for Life is about teaching year 1 to 8 students the basic fundamental skills of being safe in and around the water. After they've learned that, we know they can go on to learn those essential or swimming skills that they may want to continue with another pathway. The main thing for us is we want to make swimming in schools fun again. We need to bring back the fun aspect of it and take away that technical competitive aspect, because a lot of kids are never going to be technical. Nobody's ever gone to the Olympics from just being taught swimming at school. So if they want to go to the Olympics, great. We can give them those foundation skills, and then we want them to move on to those swim schools where they can go to professional swimming lessons. So moving on to what are we going to get out of today? The outcomes that I would love for you to go away with today is a basic understanding of what Water Skills for Life is and how it links to swimming. And as we go through today's presentation, it'll all start making sense, and it'll give you more information to be able to back up your swimming program at your school for your parents. I'm also going to help you have a clear understanding of each competency and hopefully go away with a list of activities that you can use to teach each competency, and then also be able to identify the correct execution of each competency. So these are just some photos of children at schools doing Water Skills for Life, learning about it. So the biggest thing for us is A, to make it fun, but B, to actually have everybody doing something. We want to maximize the time they've actually got in the water. They might only have 30 minutes. We want them to be in the water, maximizing their time. So you can see there's a whole line of them practicing their kicking. Other pictures show them all doing different things in the pool. But what we also want everybody to realize is that it's not just about teaching it in the pool. There's lots of stuff we can do in the classroom. So terms 2, terms 3, or on those cold, rainy days, or the day that the pool's not available or working, we can do some classroom learning. So we'll go through that as we go through each slide to share some different ideas. Okay. So this is a poster. After today, Tanya is going to share all of your email details with me so that I can send you a follow-up email. It's going to have a link to a whole lot of different resources that are free for you to use. The poster is one of them. You can print it out, you can laminate it, have it up at the school pool, in your classroom. We've had a lot of schools send this poster out in their school newsletter, sharing what they're going to be teaching the students over the coming weeks at the pool, so that the parents also knowing and understanding what their children are learning, but also know how to fill the gaps or what to work on and add so that their children can benefit the best from Water Skills for Life and what they're learning at school. So our first competency is water safety and awareness. Okay. So a lot of this can be taught in the classroom before you get to summer, but then while we're in the pool, we want to link back to the stuff that they have learned in the classroom, because some of the stuff we'll need to talk about, and we know that talking out of the pool is going to be a whole lot easier, and we're going to have a lot more attention on us than we would have if we're in the water. So teaching them basically to recognize an emergency. What does an emergency look like? How do I react in an emergency? Who do I call? Do I call an adult? Do I call emergency services? What happens? Biggest thing for children to realize is that in an emergency, if somebody ends up in the water, we don't want to encourage anybody, young or old, big or small, to jump in after anybody else, because a 5-year-old child jumping in after me is probably not going to end well for them. So we want them to be able to recognize that and recognize what comes next. So how am I going to react to that emergency? The next point is rules, hazards, and risks for closed water environments. And the following one after that is also rules, hazards, and risks for open water environments. And as we go through the two of them, you'll notice the similarities for both. And what we want children to realize is that it's not just rules that happen and apply to when they're at the school pool or when they go to the facility in town. They're actually applicable to other water environments as well. So a lot of the rules are going to be the same, hazards are going to be similar, and the risks are going to be the same. So for our closed water environments, we can talk to them about the rules of those pools. So the facilities they go to, I talk to the children about lifeguards as not being the fun police. They're there to help you. So if a lifeguard says it's not a bombing area, well, there's obviously a reason for it. It's probably not deep enough or safe enough to be doing bombs. A lifeguard on the beach isn't going to put up the flags where there are rips, because that's just going to in turn make work for them. So we want the children to respect lifeguards. We don't want them to be seen as the fun police or the people that we're going to try and avoid because they're going to tell us off. We want them to respect them because the rules they enforce are there for a really good reason. We want them to think about hazards for those closed environments. You know, other people in the pool, there might be stairs, there might be a ramp. What else is in there that they can think about and you can teach them? Then we want to think about those risks of those closed water environments. We can go from shallow pools to really deep pools. Not every pool is going to be the same. And this is something we want our students to realize, is that they might be swimming in your school pool, which might only be 1 meter deep, which is still amazing and a great opportunity for them. But when they go to town to the facility, there might be a really shallow learner pool, but the next pool might be a really deep 2.5, 3 meter pool, or there might be a big drop off in it. So we want them to realize what other risks there are in those closed water environments. So for all of the competencies that we're going to go through today, there's a Water Skills for Life website that I will send you a link to. It's got lesson plans, it's got heaps and heaps of information for all of these different competencies to help you teach this in the classroom or at the pool. It's also got, each competency has a little certificate that you can print off, they can colour in, they can check the boxes to see what they've achieved. So rules, hazards and risks for open water environments, similar things to your closed water. What are the rules for open water environments? And just as closed water, we need to always check the depth of the water. So we want students to realise that checking the depths of the swimming pool or the river or the lake or where we're going to go and jump off the bridge, we need to make sure we check all of that. Is there a rule that you shouldn't be jumping off the bridge? Why? Is it a train, track that there's a train going to come over? Are there boats going under the bridge? Getting them to understand what those rules mean. Hazards of open water. Open water comes with some different hazards. Sometimes the water is a lot colder to the swimming pools that the children are exposed to. It can be moving water. It might be open water, can be your rivers, your lakes, the sea. It can go from being a beautiful, calm time in the lake to all of a sudden there's a lot of unstable water. So getting them to understand those hazards and the risks that are associated with that different environment. We also need to think about the slippery banks, the unstable banks. Walking into a lake or walking into the sea or a river is very different to walking on a solid base in a swimming pool. Then we've got our rules, hazards and risks for water activities. So what we want to do is start linking what other things they can do. So while they're safe in and out of our school swimming pools, we want them to be able to go and enjoy other water activities. So if you're going to hop on a boat or a jet ski, put on a life jacket. Doesn't mean to say you can't swim. We just want you to be safe. If you've bumped your head and you're unconscious, somebody's at least going to be able to find you. So what are those other risks for those other the water environments or activities they're going to be taking part in? I've had a little girl at a school tell me a story about how she was on the biscuit with her brother behind the boat, and the biscuit flipped over and she got stuck underneath. And in her mind, she thought she could actually lift the biscuit up and get herself some air. But obviously we know that biscuit sucks fast to the water. And luckily her brother realized that she was still underneath it and he pulled her out. Could have ended up very differently. So it's those risks that we want to start sharing with our students, because parents don't always share those risks. What do you do if the boat tips over or the kayak? There's going to be an air pocket underneath. Get some air, get yourself together, and then get yourself out. So it's sharing those different things with your students. Then we've got safe decision making. So getting the students to realize that the choices they make are going to impact not only on themselves, but on others. So making that safe choice for themselves, but also those who are with them. And then hypothermia, basically touching on it. We want our students to realize that if they start getting cold, they're only going to get colder. So carrying on swimming further down the river or further out isn't going to help them because they've got to get back. You're starting to get cold, get the wet stuff off, get warm stuff back on again, because we don't want them to end up being hypothermic. Our second competency is getting in and out of the water. So we've done our classroom stuff, got them prepared for getting to the pool. Most important part is we've actually got to get them in before we can start teaching them any swimming or water stuff. We need to think bigger than just the school pool and climbing in and out of the ladder each time, because there is no ladder in the river. There's no ladder to help you climb back into the kayak. We know lots of students out there have zero upper body strength. They struggle to lift up a basic piece of paper, never mind their whole body. So we want to, sometimes we've got to be cruel to be kind to get them to realize how hard it is. So if I fall in or if I climb in, jump out the boat or jump out the kayak, how am I actually going to get back in? So mixing up how you get them in and out of the school pool, maximizing their time again. 5 might climb in at the ladder, and you might have the other 20 all sitting in quarter, turning into the water. Something we all do really well as swim teachers is we tell our students what we want them to do, but we actually don't give them the why. So what we want to do is start giving them the why we sit on the side of the pool and quarter turn and slide in while we're holding on, is because we've still got a point of contact with the side. So if I slide in and I can't touch the bottom, I'm still holding on to the side of the pool. If I've just jumped in and let go, I've got no point of contact. If it's a 4 meter deep body of water, gravity tells me this body is going down. So what we want to do is give them that why. It's not just because you're at a swimming lesson and the grumpy swim teacher says, sit on the side and quarter turn and slide in, or the teacher does that at school. We want to tell them the why so that when they go somewhere else, they're going to do that same safe entry because they're going to be safer. If it's a really deep pool, as opposed to what they used to, it's going to be a whole lot easier and safer for them. So use the sides, I get them sitting backwards with their back facing the water, and I play dominoes with them where I'll go along and touch their knees and they fall in backwards. So in the real world, we don't always get to fall in feet first where we can stand and it's all fabulous. So we want to expose them to the real world in a safe, controlled environment. And this is how we use our school pools to the best that we can. Getting them sitting in, falling in backwards. The first time, some of them are a little bit nervous, but once they've done it once, then they all want to do it again. So mix it up. I know most of you are going to have shallow pools where you can't teach them to bomb or to manu, whatever they do out there. But the reality is we need to have that conversation with them, because by always saying, no, you can't do bombs, you can't do manus, and never actually going into the detail, as soon as we walk out the door or away from the pool or the river, we know they're going to do it. So we need to talk about how you do it. Make sure you put yourself further away from the side than just next to the side. Can you get back to wherever you need to go to? So giving them that knowledge that they can make that safe decision for themselves later on. And that goes back to that safe decision making that we talked about in the previous slide. Throughout the slides, there's going to be little sequences. Water Skills for Life is about teaching lots of different things. People don't drown because they just fall in the water and drown. They drown because of a sequence of events they actually can't achieve or can't complete. So getting them in, doing something potentially deep water, and then getting them to climb out shows them how hard it is. Always just climbing in and out of the school ladder doesn't actually show them what the real world's like. As a swim teacher, I used to tape our ladder up with that bright orange tape, and I used to pretend it was broken for a week at a time, so that everybody who came to swimming lessons in the swim centre had to use the side of the pool, because that gave them the real world experience of how to climb in and out. Move on to our next slide. So we've got them in, they're nice and safe, and we know they're going to be able to get out safely. So now we're going to talk about going under the water. We need to get them under, we need to make them feel comfortable and confident. This is all about water confidence. This is a lot of fun. You can be as imaginative as you want, or it can be really boring. My recommendation is using the games that your students already know out of the pool. So the stuff you play in the playground or on the field, because all you're doing is adding water. So it's not all different. It's just one aspect. So I do a lot of running across the pool, hopping on one foot, swapping over to the other foot. We do ring-a-rosies. The kids love ring-a-rosies because going around, you're creating that moving water, you're creating excitement, but also a bit of fun for them. They have the option of when we all fall down, we don't all fall down, we might only blow bubbles. So giving them that option of only blowing bubbles, those who are nervous don't have to go under, but eventually after doing it a couple of times, accidentally on purpose, they're going to end up going under. The biggest thing is to let them have fun. A lot of playing, it seems like a lot of wasted time, but it's actually super, super important. When they can get under, we want them to potentially, if they can't pick up objects, because I know not every school can have 30 little sinky rings or zoggy sinky seals for kids to pick up. I use handstands because I can guarantee you if a child can get their hands on the bottom of the pool and their feet up in the air, they could pick something up off the bottom. They think you're great because this is not hard, it's not swimming. They're actually having fun. So getting them to do ring-a-rosies, they do handstands, they might sit on the bottom and high-five a partner, using lots of different laminated pictures. They're also great for in the water if you haven't got lots of sinky toys. Getting them to do dolphin dives, that moving under the water to the count of 5, that's just an idea for you. When they're going under, we want them to be under and we want them to be really comfortable and confident, because we know if they fall in somewhere, they're going to be under for at least a couple of seconds because gravity is going to end up taking them down. So we want them to be really comfortable being under the water. Another really neat thing to do with a whole class of children is to do a bubble train. So they all put their hands on each other's shoulders and they go around as a train. And then the front person of the line gets to go toot, toot, and everybody has to go under. They blow some bubbles and then they come back up again. And you might want to mix up that person in the front, or it might be the class leader for the day or whatever it is. But it's just making a little bit more fun for them. Kids love it. So getting them in and then getting them under is really important, because we know that if they end up in accidentally, they're going to end up under. So we want to make sure that they end up being able to climb in safely, but also once they're in, they're not going to panic. So our next competency is floating on the water. So this is an interesting one, and I know lots of teachers might struggle teaching it because you can't be in the pool. Students struggle to float and they worry about floating because they're not actually scared about the floating aspect. They're worried about not being able to stand up, and that's their regaining their feet. So what I do is I teach them about regaining their feet almost before they start learning to float. So it might be 2 kickboards, it might be a pool noodle, so they might be butterflies or airplanes, so 1 board under each arm, or they might have a noodle around themselves. Milk bottles work just the same. You don't have to go and spend a lot of money on equipment. Holding onto a milk bottle in each hand and just lifting their feet up off the bottom of the pool, and then they can start rocking. So they rock from front to back. They're not lying straight on their back. They're not going straight down to their front, but it's that gentle rocking motion. And then I get them to extend, bring their toes out in front of them. Oh, I can see your toes. Let's put our toes out the back. And eventually they're going to end up being able to float either front or back. But it's that fear of not being able to regain their feet or stand up that prohibits them or slows them down in actually being able to float. They need to be relaxed and breathe when they're floating, because anybody who's tense, muscle makes it harder to float, which is going to help them sink. Okay, floating on their back, we say for at least a minute. These are all guides. I do different things with the students. If it's somebody's birthday, we all have to float on our back and sing happy birthday. And if there are 3 birthdays in the class on the same day, we sing happy birthday 3 times, which means we float for slightly longer. It's really just getting them to be on their back and be on their back comfortably for a decent amount of time, not just the 2 or 3 seconds that they think they need. Sculling is super, super important because they don't need to swim. Nobody needs to do freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, or butterfly to keep yourself afloat and to save yourself. So for those who don't know what sculling is, and I'll just stand up so I can show you. So sculling is basically that action. So the hands push out, they turn, and they pull back in again. Push out, and they turn back in again. This can happen. So when I'm teaching little people, I start off with them standing in front of me doing this. So again, this can be done before they even hop in the pool. Then I get them to put their arms down their sides. So we carry on hands down their sides. So while they're in the pool, they're actually getting to feel the movement of the water. Then I add that to their floating and say to them, right, you're going to use your sculling hands to move yourselves around the pool. They just spread out and off they go. Whether they go backwards, forwards, sideways, it's giving them the chance to problem solve and discover what they do with their hands and arms actually impacts on where their body is going to go. So sculling, super important. Those kids who struggle to float, if they are those little boys who've got no fat around their hips, they can scull with their hands next to their hips. It's going to help push their bottoms up and help keep their feet up. Okay. Treading water. I know lots of you are probably sitting there thinking our pool's too shallow to teach treading water. If we introduce treading water in shallow, safe environment, they can learn the basics, and when they get to deep water, it's a whole lot easier and less stressful for them. I get them sitting on a kickboard, sitting on a noodle, sitting on a milk bottle, whatever works, get their legs or feet off the bottom, and they can learn to tread water. Tread water doesn't have to be a vertical position. It can be a horizontal. They might be on all fours, literally just keeping their face out of the water. And that's all, whatever your body can do to keep your face out of the water. Nobody's got a checkbox when you're drowning or in trouble in the water saying, how did you do this and what did you do? It's whatever keeps you alive at the end of the day. Performance of a personal buoyancy sequence. These are, again, ideas depending on where you are. If you've got access to life jackets, we have life jackets. If you contact one of our education advisors, potentially you can have life jacket sessions at your school. And then you've also got signalling for help. So we'll get to signalling for help in one of the other competencies where we talk about safety and survival. Rolling and turning. So this was an interesting one that came out of the drowning statistics. We found that people were getting stuck underneath upturned boats or kayaks and the biscuit, like I talked about earlier, and they didn't know how to get their bodies down and out from underneath. So having, again, a little bit of fun with your students in the pool. Horizontal rotation is literally going around. It's like teaching them roly-polies, somersaults, going down, just getting them to be able to get their body down and under the water. Okay. Then your horizontal is going down, so you can use your dolphin dives as your horizontal rotation. You can get them doing a flip like that little girl's doing. If you're wanting to set them up for eventually going to swimming and your competitive stuff, it's a lot easier for them to do handstands and roly-polies or somersaults now when they're younger and get into that than it is when they're older. It's a lot harder to teach a 13, 14, 15-year-old to do a somersault or a tumble turn. Then you've got your horizontal to vertical. So that's going from standing or lying down to going underneath something to standing back up again. So again, diving through hoops. You guys have got heaps of stuff in your PE sheds that can be used in the pool. You don't need to go and spend a lot of money on equipment and stuff to teach basic water skills for life. It's whatever's readily available. Your PE hoops, the balls, the cones, your milk bottles, your kickboards, all those things that you've already got, getting them to dive through hoops. Then we've got our vertical rotation. So that's teaching our students that the safest thing for them to do if they fall into water is to turn around and go back to where they came from. So it's basically turning themselves around in a circle. I couple it with teaching treading water and different things like that. I'll get them to spin themselves around in a circle one way, and then I'll say, right, we've got to unwind the top. So let's turn around again the other way. It's really teaching them that if they fall in, they've got the ability and understand what to do with their hands. Those sculling hands come back into it, where they can turn themselves around and get themselves back to the side, because we know they're going to be safer at the side than if they carried on swimming across Lake Taupo, for example. What to do in an emergency. So we've got floating and signaling for help. So it's really, really easy for us to teach floating. And once they're floating, that's great. But as soon as we change that body position and we raise one arm, everything changes, okay? Center of gravity, center of buoyancy change, which makes it harder for us to float. We need to teach our students the real basics of safety and survival as far as floating and signaling for help. Raise, don't wave is one of the sayings that we're teaching the children. So they raise their arm, they don't wave, because waving looks like I'm saying, hey, how are you? It's fantastic in here. We want them to keep that arm up nice and just to signal that they're actually in trouble. So getting your students to experiment and problem solve and discover in the school pool gives them that opportunity that when they do get caught out in the river or in a rip at the beach, that they're not going to panic. They're going to go, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. This is what I do. I lift up my arm. Somebody's going to see me and come and help me. Then we've got reach and throw rescues. So I touched on it right at the beginning of the session, where we want to encourage anybody of any age group to reach and throw to rescue and not jump in themselves, because a lot of the time the person who jumps in ends up becoming a statistic. So especially for our students at school, we want them to realize that don't jump in after me. My body is a lot bigger than you. And when I'm in trouble in the water, I'm going to panic and I'm not going to think about you as being that person who's come to help me. So thinking about what they can reach and throw, I tell the students at schools a little story. I say to them, we're going to pretend we're going on a picnic today, the whole class, your teacher and myself. And what are we going to take with us? And they tell me all sorts of things we're going to take with us for the picnic at the river. We've got a chili bin, we've got a picnic basket, we've got some blankets and some mats. We might have a kayak and a paddle. The boys might want a football or a rugby ball. Girls might want skipping ropes, or, you know, what else is there that we're going to take with us? I might have a jacket because it might be a bit cold today. And then I say to them, okay, so today we're going to pretend I can't swim. So I go for a walk down to the river to go and get some water in the bucket, because we need water in the bucket, you know, just to wash hands and things. And I slip and I fall in. What are you going to do to help me? What of those things, which of those things could you use to help me? What would we have lying around? And it's getting them to think about what else is there that they could use. You could throw me the chili bin's going to float. You could use the bucket if the bucket's on the side of the water. The ball that the boys are playing the game with, they could throw the ball to me. So it's getting them to practice and think about what else they could use to rescue them, their friends or their family. Because the reality is, as some of your students get older, year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and older, they are going to be out there on their own. They're not going to have their parents with them. They're not going to have us with them. So we want to start giving them the knowledge and the information that they can keep not only themselves safe, but those who are with them. So brainstorming it as a class or as a syndicate at school, and then saying, rightio, we're going to have all the stuff at the pool next week, and getting the kids to actually give it a go. How am I going to float with the ball? What am I going to do with the bucket? What about the chili bin? You know, what else is there that I could use to float? I can use the paddle. I can use the picnic blanket as a rope to throw, to extend my arm that I can then give it to somebody to hold on to. So it's those little things that can make it really interesting and fun. Performing a safety of self and other sequence. For the older children, I've had school teachers actually let the children make up their own sequences. So some kids might sit on the one side of the pool, they fall in backwards, they scull across the pool halfway, then their friend on the other side's got a ball that they throw them and they've got to kick to the other side. So it's again giving the children some opportunity to create their own sequences and actually put them into practice and see how they work. Then we've got our moving through the water. So throughout all these slides, other than the swimming and the Swimming New Zealand logo at the bottom of the slide, we don't talk about actual swimming itself or technical swimming. Water Skills for Life is about the basic fundamental skills to keep somebody safe in the water. So again, moving through the water, we talk about moving. We don't talk about swimming, because when you're in trouble in the water, nobody cares about your fingertip entry, how many strokes you turn to breathe. You know, it's not about that perfect technical stuff. It's about survival. Did you or didn't you make it? Did you become a statistic? Did you end up in hospital? So moving through the water might be breaststroke arms and freestyle kick. It might be doggy paddle. It doesn't matter. It's really just for survival. And as we get to a point where our students are more comfortable and confident and can move through the water, we can then start moving on to that technical swimming. So we've got moving through multiple water environments. This is an opportunity for you to again have a bit of fun with them. Those Ring of Rosies games. I do lots of whirlpools with the kids because you're creating that moving water. You're simulating the river, the rip at the beach, all those different environments, but in the safety of the school pool. Once we've created our whirlpool, I get them floating on their back, signaling for help, so they get to feel that movement in the water. I then get them to run again. I get them to do handstands in that whirlpool, because we all know when you fall into the river and the water's moving, you're going to get flipped over backwards. It's the perfect simulated other environment. And then it gives you opportunities for 50 meters, 100 meters, or 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Those are just guides for you, for students to work towards. Then we've got, this is, again, you'll get this in the email that you receive from me. We've got our swimming triangle. So that's the progression triangle every swim teacher works towards. You can see our green foundation skills at the bottom, and then we've got our red swimming skills at the top. On the right-hand side, we've got our Water Skills for Life ladder. So what we did was we took all the technical stuff out of it, and we've really just focused on those basic foundation skills that we can have students going away with basic skills that are going to keep them safe. So that's there for you to justify to any parent who comes along and asks you why their children's not swimming butterfly when they're only 7.5, because they haven't got those basics yet. Then this is a copy of the assessment sheet that you can use to gauge where your students are, what else they need to work on. And then we've got, this is a slide for you guys, and I'm sure Tanya will share the PowerPoint with you, so you'll have all of this information. So Swimming New Zealand, we are contracted by Water Safety New Zealand and ACC, and we're funded to support any school with a pool for professional development. So you can either have another one of these sessions, but it can be longer with a lot more information, as a staff professional development session. We can come out and do poolside support for you. So we can spend half an hour with each teacher in class at the pool, sharing ideas, showing you different activities of what you can do. And then the other option is also classroom sessions, where we come in and do some classroom learning with the students. We've got different activities, different games. We might bring life jackets in, depending on what you would like out of that session. So those are different professional development opportunities for you. And what we would like to offer everybody is to get in touch. And on my next slide at the bottom is my name, my email, and my phone number. So anybody who's interested in booking some sessions for yourself and your school, welcome to get in touch with me. We've got educators around the country that are free and ready to go to come in and help you, be it in term 2 or 3 with classroom learning, term 4 or 1 with pool stuff, whatever fits for you and your team. So we're pretty much bang on time. So thank you very, very much for joining this afternoon. I'll hand back to Tanya and see if anybody's got any questions.
I can't get my camera to work, unfortunately. It's overloading with filming it and doing things like that. But I did get one question through the chat, Karen. What can I do when I've got 1 or 2 children who won't get in the pool?
Oh, that's a good one. And that happens quite often. It's really giving that child the opportunity to stand next to the side of the pool. They could become your helper. You know, can you hold or throw the stinky toys in, or can you show somebody a picture? Can you hold the hoop for me? We want to eventually entice them to get in, even going from standing on the side of the pool and watching to then sitting on the side with their feet in the water. I've had children who have spent 3 or 4 lessons just sitting on the side with their feet in the water. And that's when you buddy them up with a friend who's in the pool. They might sprinkle some water on their legs, but it's really building their confidence and then slowly letting them hop in and gradually get down the stairs or the ladder. But it's about giving them that chance to build their own confidence. We want everybody to be able to hop in and participate at their own ability level.
Nice, thank you. I think that was fantastic. Thank you very much, Karen. Physical Education New Zealand was involved in the development, I think, of the teacher units for this. And as you said, everything's on the website. If you haven't had a look on the website, participants in this webinar, I really recommend that you do. There's so much there, and it's really practical. Karen, thank you for this. Key things that I took away from it was about the fun factor, and about the building of confidence in children, and just that real practical nature of everything. From this is why we're doing it, so that children and young people can survive, but also the practical nature of using what's around you, the picnic blanket, the skipping rope, the milk bottles. I love those ideas.
One thing I just want to add, sorry if I can, is what we want to do with the program is get everybody involved, so that we want to take away from little Sally who can't go under the water, so she gets put on one side of the pool and somebody else goes to the other side because you're a squad swimmer. We want everybody doing the same thing at the same time, because those children who are less confident are going to feed off of those who are more confident. Yes. And by making it fun, doing the handstands, doing the whirlpools means that the kids who aren't bringing their togs, because I can't swim freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke and butterfly, because my family hasn't been a family who could afford to send me to swimming lessons, are the ones who really need to be in the pool, but they're not going to bring their togs because I don't want to get in the pool, because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of all my friends. So we want to take away that pressure of that side and make it fun, that they actually get in and then they will start progressing as they become more comfortable and confident.
That's wonderful. The other thing I really liked about this is the fact that so much of it can be done in those winter months. So actually, this is when a lot of that non-pool learning can happen. So if you haven't got swimming or water skills for life in your winter program, maybe think about putting it in. It's a great time. By the time summer comes around, then you'll be able to do the things on the water. Thank you everyone for coming along, joining the chat and the questions. A special thanks to you, Karen. The Growing Connections and Confidence webinars are on each Wednesday after school, and they're running right through till September. I do hope that you'll tune into some others. The videos of this session and the previous sessions are on the website where you booked, so nzptc.com. Next week's topic will explore practical examples of how positive values can be taught through movement and activities. We hope to see you there. I'll close now with a karakia. Kia whakaera te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, homiei huiei, tae ki e. Haere rā tātou. Thank you.